So yeah, hi everyone, very warm welcome to our LGBTQ plus seminar today. In case we haven't met, my name's Sam, I'm a project manager here at Quadrum, but also one of the co-chairs for the MBI LGBTQ plus working group. So just here for a minute of your time, we thought it'd be a nice time to just introduce a bit more about the MBI LGBTQ plus working group before I hand over to Emma and Gab and we get on with the talk for today. So our group is all about representing, supporting, promoting and connecting the LGBTQ plus community and allies from all across the 4 research institutes, so all staff and all students, but we also work very closely with the pride groups at UEA and also the hospital to kind of work together more as a campus for the LGBTQ plus community. We're always welcome to kind of new members for ideas for things that we can do throughout the year. We have a bit of budget for kind of running events, bringing in speakers, carrying out different communications campaigns and things. So there's lots of ways that you can get involved or just get in touch to let us know what we could do better for this community and for allies as well. So the 5 pictures up here are the co-chairs of the MBI LGBTQ plus working groups. There's me and Emma. There's also Emily and Cam who are in the room, and Liam, who's possibly in the room, who I haven't seen yet. But yeah, so we're representing across the 4 research institutes, but do lots of things across campus as well. So in terms of what we do, we run events, we do articles, look at policies and things as well. So we kind of have more set events that sort of every other month. So we have our more formal like working group meetings, which is kind of discussing upcoming events and our budgets and everything. And then in between that, we have our coffee meetups. So just a bit of a chance to kind of meet people across the park, across the different institutes as well. And yeah, just to finish, we've put up the calendar that we put together for kind of Pride Month. So June, but also July, as that's when Norwich Pride takes place. So you can see we've got some things coming up. I think it's the Trans Pride event at the end of June. We've got then the Hospital Unison Pride event at the start of July, a movie event in mid-July, and then one of the bigger ones for the calendar that we kind of work towards each year, which is a question time panel and also Norwich Pride, lots of things going on in the city. And we're actually going to be marching as well. So if anyone wants to kind of get involved in that, we'll send details around sort of MBI all and across the research institutes, the UEA and the hospital as well. So we're actually part of that. We normally dress up in our like tie-dyed lab coats and have lots of kind of flags and things waving around. So just a nice way to kind of represent the community here to the city. So yeah, I think that's everything. We've got the email address there, or if you just want to come and chat to me and Emma in Quadrum or any of the co-chairs, then yeah, please do get in touch. So yeah, I think that's everything for me. I'll hand over to Emma now.
Awesome, thanks Sam. So yeah, today to help us explore these topics, we're delighted to welcome Gab. Now many of you may know already that Gab spent a lot of his time here. So he completed his PhD last year in Alison Mayfer's group. And what you may not know about him is that alongside his research, Gab has become one of the UK's most recognisable science communicators and online content creators. So through his engaging and accessible content through Instagram, TikTok and other platforms, he has built a community of hundreds of thousands of followers by sharing his passion for science, books, nature and his experiences as a Filipino-British LGBTQ plus researcher. In doing so, he has helped increase in visibility and shown to others that there is no single mould for what a scientist should look like. His work demonstrates how social media can be used not only to educate and inspire, but also to create meaningful connections and foster inclusive communities. His platform has opened up so many exciting opportunities for him and the communication of science to the next generation. And it's a delight to share some of these. So recently he's recorded a series of BBC bite-sized educational videos, and he's also got an upcoming TED Talk in a few weeks that's titled The Human Stories That Bacteria Can Teach Us. But today Gab will be sharing his insights into social media, science communication, including how researchers can use online platforms effectively, responsibly and authentically, while building positive communities and navigating some of the challenges that come along with being visible online. So please join me in giving him a very warm welcome. Welcome to good old Dr. Gab.
Hi everyone, can you hear me absolutely fine? Great, thank you. First of all, this room is absolutely packed. It's amazing to see so many happy, friendly faces. As Emma mentioned previously, I was a PhD student here. I recently finished. I'll get into that with a very long timeline of my life, making content and stuff. But I'm very pleased and very welcome to be here. Before I get started, let me just quickly. Yeah. So on the 2nd of June, 2026, just a couple weeks ago, Nature, one of the oldest and most prestigious scientific journals in the world, quietly announced something. They announced a TikTok page, which is quite surprising, because you'd never realize that a science journal would ever do something like that. I want to talk to you about how strange that actually is, because a lot of us grew up as scientists, reading papers, doing experiments, not necessarily putting a phone in front of us and doing a little TikTok dance. But I want to talk about the future of science communications with you, because it's not about those silly little dances. It's about distributing information, accurate information, to the general public. And to a lot of people, TikTok isn't news. It's been here for a really long time. But I want to just kind of emphasize that this is how science communications is changing. A lot of short-form content, a lot of online platforms are primarily targeting people like us to be the experts in our field. They're looking at people like us to distribute information and to also be a source, a fountain of knowledge that people can trust. And one thing I want to highlight with this as well is that this is also in itself a double-edged sword. So on one side, we have this extraordinary power that we can now create things that are digestible, that are understandable, but are also very, very quick and rapid. On the other hand, we have things like misinformation and disinformation. And most worryingly, these things are blurring the line between what is entertainment and what is factually incorrect with people who aren't experts in that field. And whether we like it or not, this is going to be fed to us and to the people around us. Let me give you a number, one that stuck with me. In 2026, people aged around 18 to 24 were more likely to get their news from social media than from traditional media platforms, things like the news, things like newspapers. Now think an entire generation, multiple generations of people are now understanding the world around them because of social media, because of online platforms being glued to their phones. And I am going to be honest with you, traditional media is dying right now as well. So scientists like us need to start embracing these things. And right now, I have the next 45 minutes to kind of give you a quick rundown and give you an advantage, because I want to make sure that we come out of this room equipped, prepared, enthusiastic, but also knowing how we can use it for good. So this talk is called How We Can Build Community, Find Joy While Doing It, and then Use Social Media for Good. I'd like to formally introduce myself to those who don't know me. Hi, my name is Gab Astorga. Emma did a fantastic job introducing me. I'm Filipino-British. I moved over here when I was around 2 or 3 years old, and I've grown up here in Norwich my whole life. And I absolutely adore science, every single aspect of it. But I have an alternative title to this talk as well. First of all, be gay, do science, and post about it online. My other intended talk for this was post now, panic later. And I think Alison will agree, that's not a great way to do anything in life. First of all, I want to share a really embarrassing moment of my life that actually changed it quite a bit. So this was me back in, I think, around 2021. That's me with my old university lab coat, and that is a green screen behind me as well. In 2020, I was trapped inside my room trying to complete my undergraduate dissertation during a global pandemic, something that everyone in this room is familiar with. I was stuck on a rotation of online lectures, analyzing data, and then also playing Among Us with a lot of my online friends. And we had a lot more free time. So whilst other people were making banana bread or doom scrolling online, I decided to do what I said earlier, pick up my phone, place it on my windowsill, and just start talking to anyone who would listen. Because to me, the people on the other side of the phone were just numbers on a screen. They weren't actual people. And so I could finally very truly be myself. That was in itself another double-edged sword, as I will get into later. But one thing I want you to know is that at that time I wasn't fully out yet, so I was still kind of struggling with myself and kind of like different aspects of my intersectionality. But it was through moments where I would pick up that phone and talk to strangers that I gradually came to terms with who I am. This was a moment, I'm not sure if Emma remembers this, but I went to my very first queer science event here in the Norwich Research Park, and Emma was one of the keynote speakers. And there was another scientist called Dr. Alfredo Carpenetti, this wonderful Italian man who is an astrophysicist, a science communicator, and he was making alcoholic beverages that were galaxy-themed. It was wonderful, they were sparkly, very queer. And I decided that this was a funny story that I could tell and also teach a bit of science too, you know? And then suddenly 50,000 people also enjoyed the video, and it got round to Alf, who then messaged me going, "Is this video about me?" And to which I replied, "Uh-oh." So once I'd gotten over that initial cringe, I realized that, you know, he wasn't angry, he wasn't upset. And also the 50,000 people who watched that video also weren't angry or upset. If anything, they were in my corner. They were there actually enjoying the story, enjoying the science. And I realized in that specific moment that being visible wasn't as terrifying as I made it out to be. And I look back at that very cringy, I can say this now, very cringy thing that I posted with fond memories, because it was one of the stepping stones that led me to where I am now. So like I was saying, in 2020, I picked up that phone, placed it on my windowsill, and then I just started recording myself. It would be things about my dissertation, it would be things about my university degree. For example, I was doing a reaction to an exam. And then finally, once COVID kind of eased up a little bit, I finally had the great wide world to explore. When I say the great wide world, I mean my university library, where I was the only person inside there for a whole year. So again, instead of windowsills, I replaced that for bookshelves. And that's where I started filming a bunch more of my kind of journey studying metagenomics, which to me was this very increasingly difficult concept to understand. But now that I've finished a PhD in genomics, I was bigging it up too much, to be honest. In 2021, I finished my undergraduate degree in biomedicine at UEA. And then summer hit, and I had already been applying to PhDs. So when I started, I immediately started my role here at the Quadroom in Alison's group, studying E. coli diversity in a range of different niches. And of course, on my very first induction day, I had to grab one of my brand new friends and make a big heart shape as well. This was where I was introduced to the LGBTQ+ working group here at the Norwich Research Park, and a range of fantastic and very diverse people. This was actually my very first experience outside of university that were actual academics, people who weren't just university students, who were creating and fostering an environment that wanted to include people. And I think at that point of view, I was still very uncomfortable with who I am and the kind of mindsets I had. But because we see people and they lead by example, those kind of previous notions I had started to change. They started to evolve. I then graduated from UEA, went to my very, very first Norwich Pride as a scientist here at the NRP, which then led to a plethora of other prides in London, and my favorite one down in the south of the UK that's in a very, very small town. And then I started filming my life as a scientist. So I would set up my camera and then film myself daily just doing data analysis and stuff. When I was on my placement, I also filmed myself teaching because that was something I really enjoyed. And one thing I didn't realize was that whilst I was going through this journey, I unintentionally was building a lot of communication and teaching skills. It's really fun to see myself grow from someone who was making funny yapping videos to someone who's now trying to simplify very complex topics. And then in 2023, that's when the third year of my PhD started to ramp up a little bit. And that's where I actively started posting more about science, being an LGBTQ plus person, trying to get younger people especially into this kind of field, because we know that without visible role models, we wouldn't have been inspired to be in the places we are right now. I was very lucky to have attended the BBC Creator Lab with a bunch of other fantastic people in a whole range of different niches. And then I started doing more talks with the Royal Society. I did this talk for the International LGBTQ plus A People in STEM Day. And then posting more about literature and the books that I love, because of course, as scientists and researchers, we aren't just a one-dimensional caricature of someone. We are complex people with wants, needs, and books that we love to read. And this kept going into 2025, which then led me to my submission, and then my very first paper. And I want to highlight this because I received an email from Microbial Genomics, and they said, wow, your paper was one of the most viewed papers in that quarter. And I remember going, I wonder why that is. Mind you, if you do want to go viral, hold your paper up like a fish and pose with it. So currently, I have over 1,500 videos on TikTok. I have over 900 videos on Instagram. This has culminated into over 400,000 followers on TikTok and then over 100,000 on Insta. This led to over 23 million likes. And then, of course, to the award ceremony I attended last year for TikTok Content Creator of the Year. I'm very, very happy and lucky to have been given that achievement. And as Emma mentioned, I also was very lucky to have taken part in BBC Bite Size as well. Because a dream of mine ever since I was a kid was to not only do science, but to actually, be behind the screen as well. And that was something really important to me, because that was the point where I realized it wasn't just silly little videos on a screen. This was actually making change to people, especially younger people who didn't have role models like us. So I exist in this really, really niche specific area. So I am a scientist. I'm an immigrant. I'm Filipino, and I moved over to the UK, and I'm also LGBTQ+. So all of these wonderful things culminated in my whole identity. And I think everyone can kind of relate to this because, again, we are very multifaceted people. We have so many different experiences and backgrounds that have shaped us and have turned us into this wonderful amalgamation of who we are. And this is exactly what I want to preach, because it's what makes us unique, that people can actually latch onto because they see a part of themselves in us. And for part of the next part of this talk, I want to focus on that intersectionality, because I think that's very, very important, and something that isn't really talked enough about in the scientific and academic space. So first of all, why does being LGBTQ+ matter? Not only is it very relevant in this day and age in our society, there is a need for it, right? We are diverse. It's not just a cookie cutter scientist of the 90s. I'm not going to describe them because we can all picture what that scientist would look like. But looking at kind of like systemic inequalities for specifically LGBTQ+ people in STEM, this paper reviewed over 21 societies, over 25,000 people, and specifically 1,000 people who were identifying as LGBTQ+. And we've made significant progress in this field. We've made a lot of inclusion and equitable changes, but those changes are still lacking in certain areas. So this publication showed that LGBTQ+ people were facing disproportionately career limitations compared to their non-LGBTQ+ counterparts, thoughts about leaving STEM, plans to leave academia in general because of that lack of visibility, inclusion, and support that they were being given. We also have a disproportionately higher amount of LGBTQ plus people who experience harassment in the workplace. Again, this was quite shocking to me because in this day and age, in this space, I've always felt very safe and secure. This was one of the reasons why I was so happy and eager to come out to everyone here. But again, because we foster a very relatively good environment here, doesn't necessarily mean that it's the same everywhere else. And another shocking statistic that I saw within this analysis was that LGBTQ plus individuals are more than 40% likely to suffer from things like insomnia, 20% more likely to feel nervous or stressed from work. And then we also go beyond academia and beyond the workplace. Things like systemic barriers. Things as simple as changing your name can be quite difficult in systems in academia, even outside of academia as well. Additionally, we see like a scarcity of visible role models and mentors who share similar identities. If we were to take a subsection of the people here, we'd have a diverse range of different backgrounds. But of course, that's not represented accurately or equitably online in spaces that are actually being pushed into the general public. For me, this kind of sense of belonging in the scientific community, or I guess like this kind of notion of what the slice of what I saw didn't really deter me. And I can see from the range of different faces in this crowd, it didn't deter you either. And I think that's the key thing. It was easy for us, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean it's easy for other people. We have a responsibility and a duty to be the role models themselves. Which is why I joined the LGBTQ plus working group and the EDI committee at the QIB. I wanted to understand the kind of processes behind these things, and I also wanted to see how the experts in our field are tackling change and making solutions. So in this review, looking at how we improve DEI in workplaces, I had read through it and it had come up with a couple solutions. First of all, to give a bit of background, what they did was look through over 2,000 references in a database, do a bit of a pre-screening, and then eligibility criteria, which led to 62. And out of these 62, I combed through all of them. Only 5 were LGBTQ plus focused as well, which was quite concerning. But you know, beggars can't be choosers. Let's have a little go, have a little read. First of all, it was looking at underrepresented minorities and behaviors in health research. Then it was looking at implementing DEI in a range of different like scientific services, looking at mentoring networks, and also in terms of like LGBTQ plus health. So the one thing that I took away from this to how we can improve DEI services, or I guess DEI in general in academia and the workplace, culminates to 5 separate things. First is EDI training for people in leadership. This is really important because we know that once the higher-ups are trained in EDI, noticing their own preconceived ideas and notions, then we can make change downstream. Mentors like this, I found within this research, didn't necessarily need to identify as an underrepresented minority. They could just be very, they could just relate, and they can be very empathetic. I found that in my own fields with the supervisors around me, that they didn't necessarily relate to the exact same things that I faced, but they were kind enough to express acknowledgement, and also kind enough to give me support regardless. Also, the creation and use of support networks like our LGBTQ plus working group and the EDI committee at the Quadrum has been fundamental for improving DEI, right? So these can be implemented in a whole range of different things like blind promotion, training all employees, and then all leaders as well. Then we can showcase visibly queer scientists and intersectional scientists in leadership roles. And then we can match people who are younger in their careers academically to people who are a bit more higher up in their leadership roles. Then we can show visible allyship if we're not part of that community and that group. And then finally, we can acknowledge intersectionality and unique barriers that people face as well. And to summarize all of that, because I know that was a lot of just, this is why DEI matters, but it actually does. Because representation is important, because it's more difficult if we can't see it. If we were to grow up and redo the same exact decisions that we made, if we saw more people like us in spaces doing science, we could see ourselves in that position. It would just remove that kind of visual barrier right from the get-go. Diverse teams ask diverse questions and get diverse results. I'm saying diverse as a buzzword right now, but they genuinely do. If we have different perspectives looking at the same exact question from different backgrounds, then we're going to come up with novel and unique answers. And specifically in social media, representation matters because institutions are slow. Publications are even slower, and we can make change very, very fast. And all we need to do is just be brave enough to make ourselves visible. So the fun part, how do I use social media? Or I guess, how can we use social media to help build a community and then also use it for education, for visibility, and then for change? Like I was saying, I allowed myself to be visible, but in reality, that's a bit of a lie. I kind of fell into it because I didn't realize the numbers on the screen were actual people. And then now I can finally say, I'm very happy that I did that kind of little mistake. And because people really related to my story and my journey and that evolution from a young person who was unsure about everything in their life to someone who is older, has a PhD, and still very unsure about everything in their life, it's very relatable. We can use our platforms to showcase things like our values and our dreams and our goals. And I think the one thing that I always drive forward is that I use it to showcase my authenticity and my personality. I'm not trying to fake anything, because what's the point of putting on a fake persona if you want to make change in the world, right? So first of all, we need to use social media. I want to use myself as an example here, because on Instagram, I only posted really only about 2.5 years ago, and it's already gotten to over 100,000 followers. On TikTok, I only started posting post-pandemic, so around 2020 onwards, and that was only in the span of 5 years. I did a PhD in less, and this is the kind of results of that kind of daily efforts I was doing. I did post a lot. I was showing that earlier on today. But I genuinely think that everyone in this room could have been up there on that stage winning that award, because I'm not going to lie, all of you guys are so smart. And I'm not trying to put myself down, but some of you guys are way smarter than me. So you actually have the tool sets necessary to already start doing this. What also really helped me, because I didn't have visible role models, was to attach my want and my need of seeing other people to other creators. So, for example, here we have Eleanor Svanberg, who is this fantastic Nordic communicator who's based in Oxford. She does a lot of mathematics communications. And her whole purpose is to make sure that women go into mathematics and it's not male-dominated. Then we have people like Big Manny, who is also from London and identifies as black. So he is a role model for all those people who are POC. We have Dr. Kieran, who is a psychologist, who is a mother, who talks about everything to do with mental health, and she's trying to make change that way. Chloe is another woman in STEM doing biotech, and she has made some fantastic strides in joining together the online scientific community. We have Biomed with V, who is also an East Asian immigrant coming over here studying in the UK. We have Doodles in the Membrane, who I absolutely adore. He does a lot of animations and stuff and tries to make science fun and really engaging visually. Then we have Ellie in STEM, who does a lot of mathematics as well, trying to make sure that women and young girls especially get into it. because these are all my role models. These are the people who I admire, who I try and build my own platform around as well. And the reason why I do that is because they truly inspire me, because they inspire other people. For those who are really interested as well, I'll get into it just a little bit. So my structure for making social media content is very, I would say, haphazard. It starts off with a lot of ideas. And I think this is interesting because I draw parallels between this and my own research as well. At the very start, I start off with 1,000,001 ideas. Don't ask me if they're good ideas, they're just ideas. And then we see if we can have a start, a middle, and end, some kind of like outcome with the initial data that we have. And then what I do is we research, and then I write, and then I go back to research, because what I write isn't necessarily true. And then I go, oh wait, that's corrected, let's go again. Then we film, or in this case, we edit and write some more. Then we go back, and then we go back. And then it becomes this endless overall loop that keeps going on and on and on until we get to the end stage, which is post. And I think this is the place where a lot of people tend to falter, especially when they're starting out, because the scariest part is just pressing that post button. And to some, that may seem quite silly, but if you think about it, when you're doing anything, for example, paper submission, you also get like a little fear in your heart when you press submit. But this time, because it's not an institution, because it's not a paper, it's a public video, the change or the impact that you can make is so much more quick and so much more drastic. So I totally understand that there is fear there, but you just need to post. Next, how do I use social media for good? This is one of my favorite parts because I think for me this was a journey. This was something where I kind of kept falling down on and then coming back up. It was initially focusing on myself, but then I started to transition more into education, visibility, and change. And this is where like the fun comes in, I think, because now that I started to have a purpose that I wanted to start posting things for good and for change, that's when I started to have like a drive forward. And let me tell you something, your why changes quite a lot. Initially at the very start, it was because like I wanted to yap and tell people about my life. And then it changed to, oh, wait, I'm coming out and everybody supports me, so I like that. And then suddenly it changed to, oh wait, people relate to me, so I can actually start changing things and start educating people. And now it's turned into a very nice kind of mixture of everything. Just like my E. coli, I have evolved quite a lot. Don't ask me to make a phylogenetic tree, please. How you can use social media for good, you can tell your story. I think that's the best entry point on how to get people invested and how to get people wanting to learn more. Once you start introducing yourself authentically, that's when the community starts finding you. And that's when you start creating the team that supports you right from the very get-go. And I think for me, the team was already there. I just need to understand that, you know, they are there. Thirdly, it's to build relationships that we fostered. And I think this one comes as a bit of a surprise for people who are posting online and making social media content, because it's not just doing a funny thing and then people come and, you know, attach themselves to you. You are now someone who's consistently on there on the screen, so you need to make sure that what you're doing aligns with their wants and their needs as well. In that way, I guess it's a little bit of a sacrifice, because you're now devoting some of your time, energy, and effort to making sure that the community that you've created still support you. And 4 is make change, small or big, and this is really vague because change means something completely different to everyone. It's really unique. It could literally just be, you know, posting an experiment online, or posting, you know, what your day in the life of a scientist is like. Those things are relatively easy for us to do, and to some they're really small, to others they're quite big, but they do make a lot of change. And I've cropped out a lot of the names here because like I didn't want any kind of like information issues, but I don't look through my comments, and I don't look through my messages just for like mental health reasons and stuff. But for this specific talk, I did. And I'm really glad I did, because I actually genuinely started crying. It was nice to see that the impact that I thought I was making was actually being fed back to me as well. And when I looked at all those messages, it did, kind of make me take a step back a little bit and look at all the work I had done, because it's easy to get trapped in this kind of cycle of you just keep moving forward. As scientists in academia, you understand like it's always publish or peril. I think I took the same kind of mindset where it was like just keep posting and it'll just continue. But it's nice to see that people actually like it. They really love it, I guess. And then I guess I've come here to this endpoint because I've let all those small actions kind of just accumulate and turn into something bigger than me. And I think for you, if you want to use your platforms to change, whether they're big or small, if you're starting right from the very start, I have a couple of bits of advice. So first of all, you need to find things that you want to change, because when you have your emotion tied to it, that's what makes the greatest impact. If you want to make change in your community, in nature, in environment, in research, in science, find something that you just want to make vocal. Next, I would say literally just set up a document, set up a camera, just start filming yourself, because that's literally the scariest step. Be authentically yourself. I keep hammering this forward because it is, at the end of the day, tied to you as a researcher and a scientist as a future role model. Being accurate with your information, I think this is also, in this day and age, we are the experts in our field. With a lot of misinformation, disinformation, we are the people that are being looked up to. Be kind. This one is really easy to kind of overlook. Be kind to other people, but also be kind to yourself. It's really easy to, start posting a lot and then getting bogged down on comments, mean things. You grow a thicker skin as time goes by, but it's just a nice little reminder. And then to just post as well. I've ended, actually, a little bit earlier than I expected. But I'd like to say thank you to everyone here. I'd like to say thank you to my lab group as well, because they were the ones who kept supporting me throughout my whole PhD, and to Alison, right there in the far right. I'd like to say thank you to the Royal Society, to the Quadrum Institute, especially the comms team have been amazing for supporting me and stuff. And they have been just really amazing people to work with. So if you want to get started, I'd say go to them as well. And yeah, thank you so much for listening.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Oh, I can't even speak now. Thank you so much, Gab. Honestly, it was great, and there were some really nice little moments there that I do love personally. Does anyone have any questions? And if you need some time to think about your questions, I've also got to remind you that afterwards we're going to be in here, we're going to have the badge maker out, and you can also chat to Gab. We're going to be here for like 30 odd minutes after we're done. So if anyone would like to hang around, make some badges, please do. But I see we already have one question.
Hi Gab, great talk over here.
Hello.
It's a bit of a difficult one, but assuming as you're in the science communication space and social media, how do you think that's going to change when the proposed social media ban is going to come in for under 16s? How are you sort of going to adapt to that? Because I'm guessing your audience is a bit younger, maybe not under 16, but like how are you going to change your approach for that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So to do with the social media ban, for people who don't know, the UK government are going to be imposing a ban for, I believe, under 16s. And it's starting in 2027 to do with curbing mental health crises in younger people, making sure that they have better screen time, less kind of interactions with, I would say, the darker sides of social media. Josh, I think your question is really good. Right now, it's difficult to say. I would say that having safeguards in place is actually quite effective. I say this as someone who will be affected by this because, yes, my educational content reaches 13 to 18-year-olds, but I think this needs finer nuance than it actually is given right now. it shouldn't be a blanket ban. Right now, it should be kind of a conversation with the social media companies themselves who are creating products who are basically highly addictive, right? That's their responsibility. Instead, what we're doing is punishing a group of younger people who can use social media for a beneficial use, for educational purposes. That's not the way it goes. Especially as we know with younger people who love to rebel. I know as scientists, we love to go against the grain and be like, your idea is wrong, my idea is right. People will always find a way. VPNs exist. Younger people will always find a way to rebel and create new forms of communication and social media. These things will just exacerbate problems. I think we need to go about it a better way. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Gab. I'm Martin. I'm from the UEA. And great talk today, really interesting. I was just wondering, from your slide earlier about the sort of how you make a video and what you do, the different stages, you didn't say anything about the timeline of how long that would take on average. And I was just wondering, from your ideas to research to editing to going backwards and forwards constantly to then clicking that post button, how long does it take you on average to make one of your videos?
It's difficult to pinpoint a single time. So the question is, how long does it take to make a video? I want to turn the question back to you. How long does an experiment take?
I don't really work in the science.
Okay.
So yeah, I did do a science degree, but it's not the direction I took.
Guys, that was set up.
Sorry about that.
No, but it is a genuinely good question. It depends on the type of video. So for example, you could set up a camera and do a quick yapping video in 10 to 20 seconds. You can plan, film, and edit a video that will take a whole week to record different shots, to interview different people, and then edit that down to something that's consumable between 1 minute to 2 minutes long. It also depends on the kind of platforms. So for example, if you're doing something short form like TikTok and Instagram, it might be easier and take less time. Whereas if you were to do something longer form like YouTube, that could take a month, maybe even longer, depending on the type of video that you're trying to do. I would say if you want to start small, just script something out. It'll literally take 5 minutes. Proofread it, take another day to just kind of reflect on it a little bit, fact check yourself. Ooh, yeah, please. And then, yeah, possibly a day and a half max then.
So do we have any more questions in the room? Okay, I'm going to take... Oh, where was the little flower? Ah.
I have 2 layers of questions. The first is that finding your focus on what it is that you want to post. For me, so I'm currently in the very early stages of trying to get out there on social media as part of a group that I work with. But it's difficult to refine the message, and depending on the message, it kind of alters what audience we would be targeting. So you said at the start of your journey, you just went out there and started posting. My first question is whether you think we should just, instead of trying to refine the message from the beginning, to just get out there and start posting. And the other thing is, how do we actually find and reach the people that the intended audience?
Yeah. So I think once you have an idea or a mission and it's very clear set in your mind of what that is, regardless of the range of different videos that you make, they'll all feed into that general purpose at the end of the day. For example, let's say if your key goal is to make sure that everyone's educated about the gut microbiome, but we know that the gut microbiome has so many complex different moving parts. You have taxonomy over here, you have the gut-brain axis over here, you've got animal microbiomes over here. They all feed into one central theme. And I think instead of leaning against kind of intuition and trying to focus on a specific individual group, it may actually be a strength to spread it out and target as many people as possible. Because at the end of the day, if your purpose is to have your aim and make change overall, then you're making change very quickly across a range of different people, which is fantastic. I think that's actually really good. I think it's okay if, correct me if I'm wrong, I guess the pressure now comes from, it feels like I'm doing a lot and it's not clear of what I'm doing. Is that kind of like, yeah, there's a nod there. So I think for that, it then comes back to the kind of purpose of the videos that you're making. Because at the end of the day, if it's about a general topic and the purpose is to inform and entertain, that thread will be running through every single one of your videos all the way through. So there will be a link. It may not necessarily be clear right from the very start, but as you take a step back, maybe a couple months down the line, you'll see that everything was building on each other. I hope that helps. Yeah.
Cool. Do we have any other questions? I'm probably looking around this time.
The final one, just to close it. What does the future hold for you, Gab? As in, where would you like to take this? Like, what is your vision? And do you think you will be able, like, you know, or would you like to make a whole, like, living from that as your platform? Or would you like to touch on a few different, like, elements as you do at the moment? Like being a scientist, like this multi-dimensionality you mentioned.
Yeah. That's a really good question because it's one that I've been like kind of considering for the past like 7 months. So I've completed my PhD with Alexi and HoYu about 7 months ago. And within that time, I've been applying for postdocs. I've been doing social media. I've been working as a communications specialist for the Gut Immune Brain Access Network. And right now, it's funny because I'm trying out a bunch of different things, but I'm leaning more towards like the media side of it, I think. It's something that I've been thoroughly enjoying. And as a scientist, we don't get a lot of opportunities to do that. In that kind of case, the future would be, or I guess the future goal would be, imagine a Filipino Brian Cox and Hannah Fry who does microbiology. Yeah, big shoes to fill. I'm not sure if I'll get there, but that doesn't really matter too much because I'm still very young in my career. And that means I can always pivot back into science if I want to at the end of the day. So I guess I'm just flexible. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that was a very nice answer. Okay, I'm going to take the final question then. So the LGBT working group was really interested in, like, with the times as they are, I'm not going to dwell on them too much, but have you got any advice for anyone who hasn't come out yet on the platforms and how best to deal with everything that's out there?
This is a really complex situation, I think. Coming out in general is already a complex thing to go through. I've given this piece of advice to a lot of people. I would say go at it at your own pace and find people that that you can trust that information with first. Once you kind of dip your toe in, it gets easier over time. Don't do what I did. Literally, I do not recommend posting yourself online. Hi guys, I'm Gab, I'm gay, haha. That is like a shock in itself. It takes time. Your journey is your journey and it's gradual depending on who you are. And I think in this current climate right now, what we need to do is support people who are going through tough times with the kind of climate, with LGBTQ+ rights. We need to showcase ourselves as allies who are willing to have communications, to have conversations about personal things, emotions, support, because at the end of the day, we're stronger as a community rather than just an individual.
That was a lovely ending. So thank you very much, Gab. And like I said, everyone's welcome to stay around afterwards to chat to Gab and also make pronoun badges if you'd like to. But yeah, join me in thanking Gab.